What's the sexiest moment you've seen by accident? I was in English class in my junior year of high school. A girl I had a crush on had shown up that day in a flowy skirt. I don't know what to call it. So, it comes time to grab some papers off of a table and she offers to grab mine for me. Wonderful. How sweet of her. Well, she jumps up to grab them and bends over the table, me being the only one in view as everyone else was gathered around the table, and her skirt dress girl clothes thing IDK flies up and leaves her butt just hanging out in view of only me and my teacher. My teacher and I then proceed to have the most curious eye contact I've ever shared with an individual. TLDR, the butt was fat. I was a young 13-year-old boy, at home with my 18-year-old sister. Her and her smoking hot friend, who I'd already had many a dream about, were getting ready to go out for the night to party or whatever. I was in my room and decided to go to the kitchen for a drink. As I pass my sister's room, the door wide open, I see my sister's friend wearing nothing but a bright blue thong, bent over turned away from me. I only looked for a second, or risk being exposed, but a second was all I needed. I still hold that image very close. Back before VHS totally died out, my old roommate borrowed his dad's video camera. He played the tape in the camera, and it was mostly footage of chickens. His dad owned a small farm. For a split second, there was a middle-aged woman ramming herself with a corn cob on screen, and then immediately back to chickens. My roommate paused for a moment, and then said, well, that was my dad's girlfriend. I guess his dad took some NSW footage and taped over most of it with chickens, but missed a second or two of footage. I was at New Smyrna Beach in Florida and had finished a day of swimming and drinking with my buddies, and we headed to the public showers for a rinse. There was a group of guys and girls who looked to be about 20 years old who were waiting in line in front of us. During the course of scrubbing and rubbing, this one girl's boob pops out of her bikini. It was a big, beautiful boob. My friends and I don't say a word. After a few seconds, the girl sees her male friend gawking, looks down, and in a panic puts her bikini back into place. And the guy says to her, sorry, it was just staring at me so I stared back. That smooth mother sucker. When I was about 11, riding my bike on the path through the ravine, I came up on a couple getting physically intimate in the long grass a short way over from the path. They didn't hear or see me, and I crouched down and watched for what seemed like a long time. Made myself a promise that when I was old enough I would come back and have that same experience myself, in the very same spot. Did so. Some years later. Bucket list down by one. And so the legacy of the long grass lovers continues, to be passed on every generation. Myself, my girlfriend, and a handful of work colleagues were eating dinner at a Thai restaurant in San Francisco, and right in mid-conversation the guy sitting near the head of the table stood straight up and goes, holy crap, those people are freaking. Sure enough, in the upstairs window of the apartment building across the street was some seriously vicious freaking happening. Like, girl on top, hand smeared against the glass, that backed up constipated facial expression of pressure like she's learning crap from the Matrix for the first time. Absolutely no doubt about what was going on. Full view. The rest of dinner then became a heckler's theater of commentating the physical intimacy act like sports broadcasters, which was loud enough to ultimately alert neighboring tables. Before long, most of the restaurant and wait staff was crowded around the front windows just staring in wonderment. Right in mid-conversation the guy sitting near the head of the table stood straight up and goes, holy crap, those people are freaking. This sounds like the best work dinner ever. Pizza delivery driver here, delivering a couple of pizzas to a house in the hills. Walk up to what I thought was the front door, was actually a side door. I hear folks running down from upstairs. One gorgeous completely naked brunette comes bobbing down the stairs, turns toward the open window I was looking in, sees me, stops, squeaks, then run out of view. Then a completely naked blonde comes bobbing down the stairs after her, turns the other direction, and runs into the living room. Finally, a naked man comes sauntering down the stairs, comes to the side door, and without word about anything. By this point it was clear I saw the whole scene. Calmly pays for his pizza, tips well, then goes back inside. Suavest mother ever. For a second you definitely thought it was about to happen. Don't deny it. Pizza delivery guys and naked women go together like peanut butter and jelly. Middle school summers spent at Wet and Wild Water Park just lounging about at the bottom of the rocket water slide. I wasn't there by accident. Every 3 minutes everyone gets a show. Can confirm. Also had a season pass to a local water park. Those slides were designed to turn every bottom into a G-string via forced wedgie and remove as many tops as possible. Was copying movies off a female friend's computer. I think she forgot that she put her masturbation clip, which was obviously meant for her military boyfriend, in the same folder. Ah, so you're the one they called Jody. When I was 14 I had this insanely hot English teacher. She was probably early 30s or so with some fairly large breasts. I'm 31 now and looked her up in the yearbook not too long ago. Confirmed. Definitely was hot with big boobs. One day she came over to lean down and help me with my assignment and accidentally brushed her boob across my shoulder. I had an instant boner. Not such a big deal now, but when you're 14 and a hot boob makes its way across your shoulder, that crap is absolutely magical. I worked as a painter. My company was painting a new gym. The gym was entirely closed but the staff still worked out and swam in the pool. So, to my surprise, female staff members would walk up next to me, alone in the change room, painting a wall, and get naked, change their clothes, use the shower. I'm standing there, taking forever to paint a wall. No crap, this actually happened. I can just imagine the guy who is trying to sandblast or scrape it to repaint in 10 years and thinking what the frick as he struggles to get through the 1/4 of paint on the wall. My house is semi-detached and on one side we have a window that directly faces our neighbors. Neither of our families close the blinds so we can see directly into each other's hallways 24/7. I often walk past the window in a towel or run past naked if I need to get a piece of clothing from another room. One of the girls who lives there who always seems to be heavily pregnant walks past the window naked often. She looks like a fertility goddess. You should just stand there in towel one day and wait. When you two meet eyes you let your towel drop. Around 13 years old swimming in a wave pool. For some reason that day I had a pair of goggles. I was right at the point where the waves start to break and dove under. About 10 feet to my side I see a gorgeous teen girl a few years my senior turn her back to the incoming wave. As it broke over her, the force of it caused the front of her bikini bottoms to flare out like a parachute, giving me my first glorious view of a bush in the flesh. Spent the next 2 minutes glued to that spot, only coming up for quick gulps of air. That moment became the centerpiece of my young spank bank for some time. And that's how you learn to not breathe for 17 minutes underwater. Installing a garage door. Had to walk through the house to get to my truck outside. Banged on the door for a few minutes. Opened it and called inside for the homeowner. Attractive 30 something. No answer still, so I just decided to walk through real quick. Turn the corner and she is bent over drying off her legs in the doorway of her room. She had just gotten out of the shower. I just was like I'm sorry and turned around. I just stood in the garage for a few minutes before I could go back and knock on the door. Any day you see tea at work is a great day. I just stood in the garage for a few minutes before I could go back and knock on the door. I know you probably meant you were waiting for her to get dressed, but I interpreted it a whole different way. This was one of the best and worst moments of my life. I was living in LA at the time, on a road lined with apartment complexes. I'm fat and unmotivated most of the time. On rare occasions I will exercise, though mostly out of boredom or spontaneity. I decided to go biking one afternoon with my roommate, another guy the same age as myself but a bit of a health nut. This was a mistake. He made sure to push me well beyond my comfort zone, and by the time we got back I was feeling crappy. As we made our way back to the front of our apartment building, my roommate stopped dead in his tracks and said something like, "Holy crap, look over there." Across the street on the second floor of the opposing complex, window wide the frick open, is a beautiful college-age girl taking off her clothes, admiring herself in the mirror. I was in awe for a moment, just basking in my good fortune, but only for a couple seconds. About the same time, my stomach wrenched and I knew that was it. My knees hit the ground and I started puking. Only, I was still looking at the girl. I watched her turn and look out the window, probably wondering who the frick was puking. I swear we locked eyes for a moment before she screamed and pulled the curtains shut. Imagine what she thought after. I'm so ugly I made a guy puke. In high school, I was a closeted lesbian until my senior year. My junior year, I had this friend, my best friend even to this day. We always laugh about this story. Let's call her Alex. We were hanging out at her house one weekend. I've always found her super attractive. So whenever we hung out, I'd always purposefully look away when she or any of my friends changed clothes in the same room as me. I'd even leave the room when it changed, because I wanted to be respectful. So when I eventually came out of the closet they couldn't be like OMG she was totally checking me out when I changed, or some crap. It was late school year, a few weeks before the last semester ended. Her mom just left for work and the sun was out so we decided to get our tan on. I was going through her dresser to see if I could borrow a bra or bikini top or some crap. Found one, and began to leave her bedroom so I could change into my tanning gear. But she wouldn't have it anymore. She would always make fun of me for being self-conscious. I wasn't self-conscious really. I just wanted to be respectful. So she's like bus applesauce. Just change in near. I politely decline and continue walking towards the door. She leaps in between the door and I, locks it, and jokingly gives me the vivacious eyes, but goddamn, that look has been ingrained into the spank bank file of my brain. Alex, move, I say, starting to grab and pull her from the door. She basically lets out a battle cry, no, and starts flailing her limbs to release my grip. Goddammit, Alex, she grabbed me and started ripping my shirt off. I'm twisting and turning to get her off and she pushes me onto her bed. Like holy heck, this stuff never happened after I came out. So she's on top of me, a leg on each side. In my mind I'm like, this is great, so I'm giggling but I'm still trying to get her off. She's trying to be funny and shouting just let it happen, which just made my lady boner 10 times worse. She got my shirt off and she starts unzipping my pants and I could have just let it happen, let it be super hot. But the struggle was real. She's stripping me, pulling my pants off, Thrill on top of me, and I decide to just yell I'm gay. She thinks I'm joking so she yells good Alex, I'm serious, I'm lesbian and you're on top of me. She stopped mid-strip session, looks me in the eyes and just says holy crap. We still tanned, ate pasta, watched a movie and I went home the next day, but not before she jokingly gave me a peck on the cheek. Nothing was weird, we were still best buds. But it'd be a liar if I said I didn't brag all day to my guy friends about how Alex stripped me down to my underwear. TL. Doctor. Hot friend stripped me down to my underwear while I was still a closeted lesbian. That's possibly the sweetest, least dramatic coming out story I've ever heard. Good on ya. When I was a teenager, my family stayed in Berlin for a few months for my stepdad's work. The first day in our new flat, I walk into what is going to be my room to see my mom frantically trying to put up curtains. When she sees me in the doorway, she jumps back looking incredibly guilty. I tell her she doesn't need to put up the curtains, that I would be happy to do it, and after resisting, she just sighs and throws up her hands, saying, oh well, I guess there's nothing to be done for it. There's a naked man across the way, and with that she walks out, utterly defeated. The awkward teenage girl that I was, I hesitate for a few moments before creeping up to the window and opening the curtains, trying to look as nonchalant as possible. Sure enough, in the building next door, there is this gorgeous, perfectly fit man just walking around his flat completely nude. Now, this is the first adult man I have ever seen naked in person, and I am completely transfixed, forgetting to be subtle. After a seeming eternity, he looks up, sees me, and flashes me this huge smile. My heart drops into my stomach and I imagine I turned bright red before dropping to the floor, out of sight. My poor hormone-laden body could hardly handle the excitement. This sounds incredibly freaking creepy, but after that I would regularly look across into his flat, and was gratified to find out that he basically was always naked whenever he was home. I don't speak a touch of German, so those months in Berlin were a bit lonely, but dang if I didn't love living next to that guy. I like hot girl stories as much as the next guy, but thank you for breaking the sausage fest of this thread. When I was in college, I walked in on my ex and her best friend comparing their breasts in front of the mirror. They still had their bras on, but I thought it was still really hot. Let's let Edgar decide. Cue sexy, cheesy music. Was walking into a 7-Eleven and an updraft lifted a girl's dress. No undergarments. I came for the taquitos, but I stayed for dat butt. I am not a lesbian, but I walked in on a friend of mine masturbating in the shower and I have to admit I was like tingly for a second. Also, same friend and me found naked pics of her mom's sister on her dad's computer. Very weird, not as hot. Go on. My cute young female neighbor many years ago walked into her living room naked at night with the blinds open. I was on my back porch and had a great view of her very hot bod. Her boyfriend was fully clothed on the couch, so I thought she may be going for hot times. But instead she started doing jumping jacks. Naked. She did about a dozen while her boyfriend laughed his butt off and then she left the room to get dressed. I was standing on the porch with the weirdest boner, thinking da fuck did I just see? They knew you were there. It was a dare. I was skiing, and I saw a solid 10 taking her bra off to throw in the bra tree. Ski bunnies for life. Couple of friends and I went to a party last year and we wanted to smoke. The host told us to go around to the side of the house to do it. So we grabbed some chairs and sat down and started to smoke around the corner, which was near a bedroom window. A couple minutes and two girls started to heavily go at it in the bedroom, thinking they wouldn't be seen. After they were done and we were done smoking, the two girls came out of the house and joined the rest of the party like none of that happened. I was in high school and got to physics a little early. A few other kids were there. The one cute girl was there sitting in front of me and was wearing a skirt. For no apparent reason, she lifted up the backside of her skirt and flashed me her butt. She then turned around a second later and saw me. I didn't know how to react, so I turned my head down to my desk. That image was in my spank bank all throughout high school. She was also in my English class, where we had to sit in a U shape. She wouldn't remember to cross her legs, so a ton of people saw upskirts of her for like 40 minutes a day. Our English class was a U shape as well. There were two girls on the other side that would do the same thing. The girl that almost never crossed her legs was the teacher's daughter. Awkward boners daily. I wouldn't say accident, but early in my college career I was at a house party and one of my friends had brought his GF from back home. She got drunk and kept teasing him that he couldn't touch her until midnight that night. So to keep teasing him, she started making out with her girlfriend. It started getting out of hand when both of them were in the bathtubs on clothing going to town on each other. We all packed in the bathroom and watched, right in front of her boyfriend. Right in front of her boyfriend. You should have at least let him have the front row. Went to the beach with several co-workers of mine. I was in the water with one of them, a very pretty young girl. A wave hit her, and for a brief moment brought her top down. Two of the most beautiful female breasts I've ever seen at physical distance in my life flashed me for what must have been no more than a second but seemed like eternity. TL. DR. Beautiful co-worker with perky tea flashed me at the beach by accident. My wife and I were on vacation in Jamaica, and I was out on the balcony of our ocean view room, which meant our room was sort of perpendicular to the water. One afternoon I was leaning out over the balcony a bit watching locals fishing in a little paddle boat when I noticed a naked woman laying in a hammock on the balcony beside ours. She was facing away from me toward the ocean, so I couldn't see her face, just the top of her head, but I could see enough to know she was completely naked and also enough to know that she was masturbating. That went on for about 5 minutes, one hand rubbing her tea, the other down below. I heard the sliding glass door on her room open, so I sat down quickly. Her boyfriend came out. They spoke for about a minute in what sounded like German, and went back in their room. I then proceeded to go in and wake up my wife with my wiener. Walked in on my mother-in-law in the shower. Thought it was my wife. Let it be noted my mother-in-law is smocking hot. Ah, the always rare MILF. I was a passenger in a car on an intermittently gusty day in the city. My eyes wandered to a couple walking down the street. The moment I saw them, the wind god smiled upon me and gusted the wind, blew the lady's flowing skirt up as if it were trying to give her an atomic wedgie with her skirt, and I got a flash of her perfect butt in a thong. Embarrassed, I diverted my eyes as we drove by, but that butt still haunts me to this day. Haunts. You have been visited by the snake of great corn. You will be blessed with corn for eternities to come, but only if you comment corn me up. Snake, if you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.